Okay, I think we're ready. Am I on? Yes. Okay, call the meeting to order. All right, we'll start with the approval of the minutes from last meeting. Do I have a motion? Okay, there's a second. All right. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Next, approving the disbursements. Do I have a motion or any questions on that? All right. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? All righty. Next, leases. We have the temporary license agreement with Bavna. And Steve, do you have anything you want to?
Right. So this is the temporary license agreement I wrote about a week or so ago, about 10 days ago. And so this is Kiar Patel and family are they're currently set up in the kind of the northeast section, so north of the Christmas tree, if you will, of the Florian Keene, the stadium parking lot. And this is that agreement. As my email stated, we have for a few weeks run a lot of due diligence on this. It came in, the request to use the lot came in prior to, just before Christmas. And so I reached out to Scott County Health Department, Department of Public Health, just to make sure, because also in the news, very frankly, we were seeing on the national national news, some scam kinds of things, and we're not a partner in this. We're just simply leasing some space on a temporary basis via a license agreement, but it's also reflective, right? We don't want, we need to do a little research. And so once we ran that through various stakeholders and city departments and that sort of thing, we were ready. And so they have, obviously with the uptick, had the desire to get started, and they have done so. And what I had them do was sign, we executed the hold harmless from before they started on the 18th, pending, and they know that we were meeting this evening, and depending upon the result of this, would the outcome of this meeting would dictate their ability to continue on. But what the agreement states is that essentially, as they really cannot, they can finish before March 31st, but because of the River Bandits season that begins, their home opener essentially is April 12th. So I placed in here and let him know from the onset that March 31st is really the final date. And we don't know at this point the duration of how long they are going to need it. And if it comes to be that they need a longer period of time, I'll explore with him a potential other location, but it won't be there. So anyway, he's been fantastic to work with at every turn, getting us what he needs. They're signed up with a lab, so it's a free drive-through clinic. They're basically there daily, 8 to 5-ish, and they ship, the tests off to a lab. They overnight them, and the labs are all very busy, as you can well imagine, and so it's taking several days, to get those results from the lab back. The individuals are, but the agreements really are between he, and the lab. But there's no cost to the individuals that are actually participating in it. And so that's where we are at the point of, my recommendation, of course, is approval by you all tonight. And once that occurs tomorrow, we will sign. And as you note in this license agreement, it's our city attorney that's the signatory. We notarize this, we'll execute that tomorrow and continue to work with them along the way, and I'll apprise you accordingly. But, for example, the other day when it snowed, they're clearing their own area because that's otherwise an add-on cost that, we don't always clear that portion of the lot if we don't have to. And so, that's one thing I had negotiated out with this agreement as well. So anyway, if there are any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Go ahead.
So did he reached out to you, right, to set this up just all on his own?
Yeah, so a little background, I think he's okay with me sharing. So his family owns a couple and operates a couple hotels in Moline. And they were, this is an outcome of a difficult or challenged many weeks of trying to keep it open. Keep employees that are either being forced, to be on quarantine because of family members or exposure or whatever. And so his father's a physician. They brainstormed what they could do, and this was what they came up with. So they started calling around, and I answered the phone that day right before Christmas break, and we this is where we're at.
Steve, I'm just curious, are they keeping track of sort of the numbers of people they're serving at all? Is that something that?
I'm sure they are.
Okay.
Yeah, I have not asked for that, but I'm sure he would have no problem with me.
Yeah, I think that might be just an interesting thing
Right.
for us to have a sense of,
Right.
especially once we get close to the end of March, to have some sense of, how much of a continuation of need would there be if we, if they said, gee, we'd really like it, is there another location you could help us? It would be good to know if we felt like, well, this is really a service, for the community that we can do if we wanted to try and, locate another location for them.
Right. Yeah. He was
Yeah.
looking to do one on the Illinois side. I don't know where that is, but I'm happy to talk to him about numbers as we, move forward. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that's awesome that he was doing that.
Yeah, sorry.
I do.
Yeah, I move we accept the temporary license agreement with Bobna.
Okay.
We accept this license agreement.
Okay.
I move we accept that.
We have a motion. Bill, is that a second?
No,
No, okay, we have a question.
I have a question.
Okay,
It's the first time I've seen the drawing.
okay.
If I read this drawing from my own personal knowledge,
It's not on there. That's not. Yeah, that's not
what
it.
do you do? Just this?
You do, I did include a map in the packet,
It's this one right
but it's not that one that you were looking at.
That's that part of it.
Yep.
This is what we're talking about, the north.
And it didn't translate very well, but it's basically a drive-through in that particular lot, so,
The northeast corner of
I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, Steve, is this for us to sign, or is this for, is the city attorney signing this?
Tom Warner provided me that license agreement,
Okay.
and his signatory, I mean, he's listed on there, and so we're going to leave that intact. We're still the ones to collect the
Okay, we're just sort of
revenue from it.
ratifying it.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think our motion, Bill, if you might amend it, would include that, we approve the license agreement and authorize the city attorney to,
Okay. So noted.
just so it shows that we authorize him to do that.
Yep, thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next, we'll move on to projects, and we have, I think we've had an initial discussion on the Mid-American proposal, so I think Steve has a little more to cover with us on the sort of buyout of the easement agreement. I don't know what the best way of describing that is, but
I thought I would move over here just
Yeah.
because we have some guests this evening that I'd like to have them be made to feel at home, and they will be approaching from this vantage point at some point. And so, but I just, for the benefit of everyone, because this has been a little bit in the making, but I've been communicating mostly with staff and executive officers of the commission, but to give you by way of a little background, and then I think Bill Shearbrock and Dawn Carlson, both with Mid-American Energy Company, are here this evening to kind of fill in, some of that and provide a little bit more detail, because I know there will be some questions. This is an existing lease. Okay, let's start with that. You will see on our table, that you get from month to month, which, by the way, I forgot to include this month, but you will see normally with all of our tenants, right, you'll see Mid-American Energy, like $6,000, it'll say, right, a year, and it's like paid annually. Okay, and that is we're like in the 35th year of a 35-year agreement. Okay, and that has stair-stepped up from, I forget, starting somewhere around $4,000 or $4,500, and then every 10 years it had jumped a little. Mid-American Energy as a company doesn't really do lease, monthly lease agreements or like that. They might explain that a little bit more. And so what this is an electric transmission line, okay, it's already existing, so there's nothing new here, but you'll see on here, it's, to construct, to reconstruct, to maintain, it's an easement, okay, that's an existing situation that is west, essentially, general terms here, without giving you the legal description, but that's included, west of Marquette, essentially south of River Drive, okay? So we're in that general area, Public Works, Veterans Memorial Park, generally. Nothing's in the ground. This is all, again, easement, transmission line kinds of things. So this is in lieu of that ongoing annual payment, this is a one-time agreement and a fee, if you will, for that, or payment for that use. Okay, it's a perpetual, sort of non-exclusive, as the language dictates, use of it, which means we'll still be able to interact with each other and we're not selling land, and we're not, we're still be able to interact. So, for example, before it even kind of goes there, we're going to talk a little bit about Veterans Memorial Park later. There's no conflict here, because down the road, if there's going to be some future build out in an area, we'll work together to figure out if there's a replacement of some sort of structure or whatever that supports the line, right? We'll figure out how it's not imposing or works without conflict, if it happens to even be in that particular area of that development. So, I just want to be clear right away about that sort of thing, and I think they will address that piece of it as well. Where it goes from here, okay? So we've been talking, obviously, for a while. Legal has reviewed the document that you have in the packet. My mistake, what I handed out to you this evening was an exhibit that's alluded to. It didn't make it in your packet, but it's in your hands. I'm sorry, it's very hard to read, but you can kind of get a sense of where this is located, and we can field any questions if there are some more specific ones to be asked. But procedurally, where we go after this evening, there's concurrent approval. You've heard me, talk about, right, that council, and it's not so much because it's this time a more than 3-year lease agreement. This time it's triggered because it's more than $100,000 as an amount. Okay, so the amount that you see here at the $205,000 plus is because of that one-time payment. The upon the commission's approval, the city council also, their approval, their concurrent approval is needed. But first, a public hearing in front of the council is needed because of that amount of money. And so the green sheet for that is being submitted and is due tomorrow. So the first cycle in February, barring your approval or I guess pending your approval this evening, the first cycle it would be next week. The city council would set a public hearing, which would take place right now. It would take place the 16th. So there'd be a notice that would be placed in the Quad City Times on the 12th of February. The 16th, the public hearing, Wednesday during the committee of the whole. That same cycle, which is the second cycle of February, that same cycle is when there would be the actual approval. Okay, so it would be that week later with the city council meeting, the 23rd, but that same cycle is 16th, 23rd. So with that, I don't know who, oh, yep, sure, you bet.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just have a couple of them. The first one is, how was the dollar amount arrived at?
Yeah, so legal, Tom and I took the amount, that 35-year, you remember, previous, and took the amount that had been paid over time and essentially took it to real dollars today.
Okay.
And that's how that was arrived at.
So it's a 35-year easement. All right, then I guess my other question is, while it seems all good, and you say we would work it out, one of the grantor would not raise the elevation of the area, plant trees or other things without permission. And I'm not really sure, but the area below, I think the bridge, that would kind of limit maybe what we would want to do there. I'm not sure of how far back. What's not in here is kind of how the bike path goes through it to give us kind of a view. And then I don't know, and with Veterans Park, if it even goes anywhere near any of that area, though there is that project to do the wall, right, in front of this.
Yeah, this would be, that's away from here, but I see where you're saying proximity-wise. I don't, as part of Zach, as part of the presentation, do you have, are you just concentrating on overlook, or do you have any slide that is in your presentation that shows the future?
As a matter of fact, we do.
Do you? I mean, maybe, could you bring that up?
Elevation? It's like, you can't change the elevation. I mean, we wouldn't have to negotiate. So if we
I
have.
haven't seen the exhibit of what's being proposed.
So shouldn't we marry these two up? And I think that's one of my questions.
Right.
And then my next question is, the city council's having the public hearing. We don't have to have one. Are we just approving the document or saying we recommend them to approve it?
Right.
And then does the money then come to us?
Yes.
All right, that's what I need to do. I think I have answered. I'm just kind of curious in that it's all those structures are there yet, but we do have some design there and then some potential design. And while it seems small, seems not of a problem, if we want to raise this elevation a couple of feet or work around it, I think we should have that discussion before we enter into this, so we have an expectation. But I'd love to hear from them.
Yeah, let's go ahead and, I don't know who wants to talk first, but, okay. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bill Sherbrock. I am the manager of high voltage in engineering at Mid-American here in Davenport. My role is I am the manager of the group that oversees the engineering and construction of all our transmission lines. So Ms. Broomer, to answer your question, the reason why we have that language inside of our easement about changing ground elevations and vegetation is to maintain the electrical clearances that we must to the lines. Unfortunately, I have not done any research on the existing structures and what our ability would be to raise in that area. That language in the easement is a default language. And unfortunately, I have not followed your commission and any of the plans for the future expansion of Veterans Park. You did bring up the bike path. The bike path that I'm aware of today is along the river. Would there be another bike path going
That's the
in?
one.
No,
I'm looking back from the bike path where this exactly is. in
Sure.
terms of the structure.
So, back from the bike path, we are approximately, why is that easement?
Below the bridge.
Yeah, it is 100 feet to the river side of the railroad tracks, east of the bridge, and then it,
On your drawing, it's the south side of the railroad right away is the top side of that shaded area.
That's, yeah, that's kind of where the asphalt plant is, above the bridge, after the part to the west of it.
yes. That again is about 50 feet to 100 feet against the railway line.
And it does kind of vary, just because it gets
So-
larger, as it
way
goes down here. Okay.
so there's two parcels, isn't there?
That is correct. There is a parcel to the east side of, northeast side of the bridge and a parcel to the west side of the bridge.
Yeah, I think that west part is not part of the Veterans Memorial Park, if I read this map correctly.
No, that would be west of the railroad bridge.
Correct, so that's really not part of the Veterans Park, but the other part, you're asking for an easement, I think Steve said there's nothing in the ground, is that correct?
That is correct.
So the easement is for power lines above the ground?
That is correct.
Okay.
The lines that are
And so
existing.
you're
as of yet.
concerned that we don't raise it so much, I'm not saying we are, but your concern is that the elevation doesn't go so tall that it would affect something of access to the power lines.
We are required by Iowa State Code to maintain clearances from our transmission lines to the ground as required in the National Electric Safety Code, which for this area is approximately 22 feet.
20 feet?
22 feet.
Do you know what the clearance is now, today, from your power line to the ground
It
there?
would be at least 22 feet at worst case.
Yeah.
In the best case, there could be a lot more feet?
Best case, it could be higher, yes.
I think that's what we're kind of looking, my thought is a review. We've not had, I think, from a staff level, that kind of review.
Are you thinking of the flood mitigation berm thing?
No, I'm thinking about what future you may want to do there, a structure, I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
this is 35 years.
Well, I think part of the question perhaps is what is the process if, if there is a, something that wants to be built or there is a difference of opinion, what's the process for negotiating that through? I mean, yes, we
Yeah.
would want to work together. and I
What's
think
our
we all
leverage?
sit here and agree with that.
At this
but,
point, what's
yeah.
our leverage? We don't have
There
any
are-
leverage.
Well, it's 22 feet. I mean, they would have to raise their structures. They're not going to do that, right? That's basic. I mean, that's not
Yeah.
going to
Correct.
be, even if we have a year-to-year lease, you probably won't raise your structures. I guess I was a little dumbfounded that someone on city staff hasn't done this with you and felt good about it.
Yeah.
But, that can happen between now and the city council meeting, right? In terms of looking at it and saying, we can't foresee we would ever elevate here in terms of park or other improvements.
Are you saying it's about 40 feet right now?
It's trees. at
I
this
do
point,
not
if
know
it's
what it
anything.
is at this instant.
Oh.
That is a figure that I could have for the commission by tomorrow.
I mean, if it's 40 feet and you only need 22, I think it's, well.
We don't even talk about it.
Yeah.
It's likely not 40 feet. It's likely closer to 22 feet, but I would be very surprised if it was
Wow,
only
yeah, that
22
doesn't
feet.
give us, yeah, that really, down the road, like Dee is saying, that really hampers anything that we might want to do in that area because that is part of the Veterans Park, I think.
If I could just. We can look in the intervening time a little more closely, but it is not really. We were just looking, I mean, it's just a little bit, outside of that, at least as it currently, the master plan, even like many years from now, but I appreciate
Yeah, and
the
Steve,
sentiment, so
you know,
we'll
I
take a
think
look.
partly,
maintenance
if there was a way for us to have a better graphic,
Ah.
so that we could get this
Sure.
in context, I think that would help people just be comfortable in understanding what are we talking about. I mean, I confess, I have a hard time really zeroing in on where is this exactly?
I think it's
It's
coming
small.
out by the gas pumps.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Basically on
thinking.
Marquette.
It's got to be by the.
You know, so I'm looking up here by this bridge abutment in this area and saying, okay, if they wanted to elevate something 2 or 3 feet, that's probably not a really big deal, but somebody on staff should have known, hey, no, you know, it's 25 feet, we're probably not ever gonna talk to them. I mean, that was just, I just wanted,
There's not, I mean, I haven't really vetted this here, but I mean, I don't know that there's a huge deadline. I mean, I don't think this wants to go on for perpetuity or whatever, but I mean, what I had outlined,
Yeah,
I mean, we can flex a little bit. So what I had outlined, that schedule, nothing has dropped. And so we can back up just a second and provide some time before it even goes to council. Can even come back here in a month if it would give you more comfort. I don't want to have you approve something that you don't have full.
Yeah, I guess I might
comfort with.
suggest that we first of all get a visual that all of us could actually easily identify where this is within our space that, you know, we're supposed to be stewarding. And then maybe just address some of the questions, okay, if we want to, you know, if we want to plant trees, what are our limitations? You know, I don't know, there's a bunch of structures we're talking about, but I do think we have a lot of thoughts on, you know, the naturalized area, being able to have that beautified and used for outdoor purposes. And then what's the process if we want to put something somewhere and there was a question about that? How do we walk through that as a commission?
yeah, and I think would have Public Works review it and also kind of say, yes, we can't foresee anything here.
Yep, that's fair. And then we'll return. I mean, I don't think that's a
Yeah,
problem.
And I did want to mention as well that I can definitely, I'll get an aerial exhibit, so it has like a Google map, so you can see exactly where the easement overlays on top of that exhibit, which will make it a lot more clear for you guys to see, totally understand. And then I can also provide you with this easement, we started this in 1952, and then it expired in 1987, and now we're coming up for the expiration again, which is why we're all here. But the stipulations that are in this new one are the same stipulations that were in the old one too. So just so you know, and that will help as far as the process. I think we work well with the city of Davenport. There's a question, you know, we want to put a couple trees. We have a low growing tree list that we can provide to you that they have that's allowed within our easements. So we're definitely willing to work with you guys with anything that may come up.
That'd be great, we appreciate that.
Yeah, there's no problem. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Any other questions for commissioners?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I'm an engineer, so I can read the.
Perfect.
No, there's an existing line runs there, so. But we're renewing a lease for 35 years. And we're building a veterans park. And I don't know if it still exists, but I know in some of the concept drawings, we show an exit out of Veterans Memorial Park up to about where it shows Sturdivant Street. Right?
Yeah.
And I think this agreement ought to recognize today that we intend to build a street under your power line across your easement. And I don't think there's any problem getting it done.
Nope.
But I think it'd be clear if we could put something that says, you know, you at least acknowledge that we intend to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we haven't, like, we've never
It's
seen
not,
plans.
it's not in
for
the
that.
plan right now, but it could be down the road somewhere.
Okay.
Pardon the pun.
And
Yeah.
it's not unusual for us to get requests like that. It all depends upon how the road is designed, what the current elevations are, any modifications that have to be done. So that's something that we could certainly take a look at.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our list is Veterans Memorial Park presentation by Zach.
Doesn't sound like it.
Let me see if I can, there,
I got a green light.
there, yes.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Chairwoman Grubbs. For those of you that don't know me, I think I see some new faces. I've been here in a while. I'm Zach Peterson. I'm the landscape architect in Public Works. And Steve had asked me, and I think it's upon Bill's request, to have a rundown on Veterans Memorial Park. So the park is approaching being roughly a known entity for about a decade now. So that's almost a whole generation of replacement on the board here. So we thought we'd start off with like a 101 on how we got to this position, and then follow up with where we're going with the ongoing construction activities. Hey, Steve, can we get rid of this? Do I hit collapse? Okay. Excellent. Okay, so let's get started. So just wanted to go over. Oh God, I got slow transition, so I apologize. The speed of this computer is probably going to lag a little bit. Just some project background to date. So the whole notion of Veterans Park started back in, my God, October 13th, 2010, when a Veterans Task Force was established to develop and discover a ideal site for a Veterans Park. The task force was compiled of 11 members of retired and active duty veterans representing all military branches. Their objective was to value sites. Basically, any site in the city, public or privately owned, was game on. If that had met the criteria they're looking for, the city would consider making that a ideal site. Along with this was a 120-day timeline to get this through. So it was tight, and this group, including myself, I was on the initial staff. I was staff liaison to this board. Met every Wednesday for 120 days and came up with recommendations January 26, 2011. So the site selection process was a great program in that there's a lot of passion coming into the site selection process. Veterans were very frustrated, and rightfully so, that the city promised them a park site for probably 40-some years, and it never come through. So this was a way of saying time out. I know at that time what became River Heritage Park was eyed as an ideal Veterans Park site, but getting this group together and really taking what do you want in a park, and will that match the particular site you're looking at. So site selection process dealt with the size, large enough to give the impression of single use, meaning they wanted their own standalone park rather than, say, like a little sub-alcove of, say, Vanderveer and that kind of thing. So the desired location, give a sense of belonging and connection with the use. Access, easy access from car, bike, pedestrian, and with appropriate parking. Adjacent uses that were compatible with the Veterans Park use. A topography associated with it as well. And views surrounding were pleasing. Didn't want it necessarily in the middle of the city or anything to match the theme being brought forth. Flooding, obviously flood resilient was a key component as well. Already close proximity to utilities, so electric, sanitary, and storm was also factored into it. And seclusion, separated sufficiently from adjacent properties for that contemplative use. So tours were given. I wasn't on those, but a number of finalists were named, and when it all came down to it, the commission voted, or the task force voted, and site known as Crescent Park was selected as the first one. And of note, the East Industrial, which is now River Heritage Park, came in a close third, but Crescent Park was determined to meet the needs much better than the alternatives. So the recommendations from the task force, Crescent Park selected as the ideal site and was subsequently renamed Veterans Memorial Park. Park dedication ceremony was held on Memorial Day that year of 2011 at 4 o'clock. Along with that, establishment of a 501c3 called Friends of Veterans Memorial Park, who would be the advisory board and spearhead future phase fundraising and be an advisory group for unintended vetting future park improvements. The city staff was directed to design phase one from that point. So a key site program from the task force was obviously flagpoles, monuments of both war distinction and individual recognition. Gateways in the park would achieve a sense of arrival, like you've arrived in a very special place, as well as gateways between transitional elements within the park. It was intended as a place for meditation, part of that being a healing garden and a walking path. The seclusion nice to just get away from it, get away from it all. They also recommended recommended a shelter indoor pavilion as part of this with expandable space for future additions and open green space to be used as event space and parade lawn. So the site itself, when I talk about Crescent Park, was envisioned as part of the River Vision Plan of 2004 by Hargraves Associates. It's, as you well know, the area west of Marquette, and the area, coincidentally, we just spoke of about, with our friends from the Mid-American. So the site program is proposed by River Vision, dealt with a very ambitious plan for a roughly 50-foot high amphitheater that could hold events for 10,000 plus people, but set in a very naturalized park with naturalized wetlands surrounding it. And here's a site of the existing conditions. This is taken from about 2012, but it hasn't changed much in that time. It's occupied by the Public Works facility and the storage yard used by Public Works in that area. And it's an offshoot of the Marquette boat ramp. So the big question asked is, like, can this veterans new program proposed by that coexist with the adopted River Vision Plan to create Veterans Memorial Park? And the answer was a resounding yes. The contemplative, passive nature of the park really dovetailed nicely with what was proposed by River Vision. So that was not much of a departure from what was master planned. So from a staff level, we developed the Phase 1 master plan, which is what you see there today. So it's 2 phases, a grand outlay of trees, species outlaid in patterns of 5, representing the 5, symbolic of the 5 military branches, topped off with the flagpole plaza, which is there today. From plan view, it takes on the form of the ribbon. So you think of the yellow ribbon, it has it's a metaphor for that. So with in partnership with Shive Hattery, they took the original concept and did the construction details, all the utilities, electric, and came up with what we had. And in a few short months, by Memorial Day, it was substantially complete, and the dedication was held. So quick turnaround on that sucker, but we made it happen. So as far as the master plan is concerned, once we hit that benchmark of Memorial Day 2011, planning came into discussions about what to do with the park itself. Here's this great site, great views, and what do you do with it in terms of an organized master plan? So in 2012, RFQ was issued for design services with a deadline of January 7th, 2013, twofold to develop a master plan for the gigantic site and identify a construction phase to focus on as the first technically major phase of the park to build on what was previously done. So 14 firms responded. The response was actually coast to coast and international. We had some interest from Toronto to develop that. But the review committee, which was city staff, task force members, or it was at that time Friends of Veterans Memorial Park, ultimately selected Smith Group JJR of Madison, Wisconsin as the project team to undertake the project. So here's the graphic that comes in handy with the previous discussion in the meeting. So in terms of the master plan, really expanding into the entire site, envisions a separate entrance eventually off River Drive using the existing Public Works Hall Road as a circuit route through it, and then its own separate entrance off Beiderbecke and Marquette Street. So for the purpose of what's being proposed, that power line more or less runs right where this road is shown. But those are details. I mean, this is obviously a very, very long-term vision. I can't emphasize that enough. In terms of Bill alluded to Bill Ashton rather, a access point on Sturtevant tying in the city cemetery to the park and eventual parade lawn with a center monument on the natural high point of the site. So this is what an illustrative looks like about the full build out, what that might look like. So your natural high point becomes a long range, yes, central monument overlooking the river in a naturalistic kind of amphitheater setting. The panoramic view sweeping from downtown all the way to the Crescent Bridge. As far as the proposed phase 2 is concerned, the area shaded in red was the area that was outlined to be the focus of the next buildable phase. So when I talk about phase 2, it was intended initially as this zoom-in area, so focusing on its own separate entrance from Beiderbecke, separate parking lot, expanded Memorial Plaza, so taking what's already there with phase 1 and expanding upon it, and I'll go into some of those features. It actually proposed at this time eliminating the parking lot that's there in favor of its own separate access point, whereas parking for the boat ramp would be relocated along the access drive along the riverfront. In terms of circulation access, it was envisioned that parking or cars would be able to circulate from Beiderbecke and drop off in a sense forming a new project gateway here as a point of entrance to the park. Conceptual rendering of what that would look like, identification, signage, maybe some flagpoles, but the sense of entry into the park itself. From that point, the expanded plaza dealt with view sheds leading into the park from this new access point and a primary access into the expanded Monument Plaza, complete with contemplative informal walk through there with commemorative nodes. And so here's a zoom in of how the existing phase 1 would be transformed into this new, and I'm quoting Smith Group here, interactive memorial experience. So I don't know if you can see it very well from the slide here. My eyesight is shot, but it's pointing out areas of the overall formation of the surrounding plaza area takes on a bosque, what's called a bosque of trees. So trees lined up in a pattern. And it's a symbolic gesture to the site where certain, where there should be a tree would be missing, and it's a metaphor for fallen comrades in honor of those that couldn't be there in terms of missing from the military unit. Another zoom of the formal entry walk into the site. So you have the gateway and how when you move into the site, you're in a very special place amongst the trees, the geometric shaped trees through there, ornamental in nature, creating a very solemn, reflective environment. The Gateway Memorial, as mentioned, expanding on what was already done there. The veterans communicated very clearly that they expected the existing monument to stay. There was a lot of effort that went into that, and it would be a shame to demolish that in favor of, but the game plan is to integrate it. Another shot of illustrative of the Gateway Memorial. A centerpiece of the Gateway Memorial would be a ceremonial chime that can be used when the site is used for, think of Veterans Day, Memorial Day celebrations, as well as other to be determined program elements that the Friends of Veterans Memorial Park can come up with the thought about flag retirement ceremonies and those kind of things could take place in this area. here's a view of what that would look like. The ceremonial chime is the centerpiece of the courtyard. In notion of using what's already on site, so the existing bench is being relocated throughout for seating areas and interdispersed in the expanded plaza. The brick pavers would take on a abstract metaphor of the campaign badges and recognition of service as a replication, just kind of a nod to lapel pins and that kind of thing. Interdispersed throughout the rank and file tree configuration, or this notion of commemorative features. So separate monumentation. The idea was proposed as a dog tag sculpture where veterans, as it applies to local veterans, can leave a copy of their dog tags there, and it could be indexed for future generations to look up, their military heritage and how that relates, and find dog tags of their loved ones as part of the mix. Other commemorative features, obviously, one of the big goals of the park is to be expandable, and as such, conflicts are going to change, priorities are going to change. So it's kind of a choose your own adventure. So these commemorative nodes, anticipated in partnership with the Friends of Veterans Memorial Park, will expand into different ways to honor both military campaigns as well as individuals as part of the original program. Obviously, with it, the initial budget came at about $2 million. So at that time, and it's still the case, there are ways to downscale and build manageable subphases. So this idea of taking what's been done, but rather than all or nothing approach, be able to break it up into subphases for construction purposes. So this is some strategies that were outlined by Smith Group. Subset A, or subphase A, would be the expanded memorial. Subphase B would be what's known as a river overlook, and subphase C is the separate entrance, entry, gateway, and parking lot. So when we talk about the phase 2 overlook, and I guess to minimize confusion, that this has become the new phase 2. We've had some kind of discussion about a phase 2 subphase, but this is the goal of the current campaign. And so it's construction of the river overlook in this conceptual rendering. It'll tie into the existing monument, which is here, have some circulation paths leading over to the existing parking. But it'll be overlook and capturing on the river views there. The natural topography of the site goes up a good 8 feet or so from the bike path level through there. So it's a way of being up on top of that and being able to take in the river views. So I kind of alluded to that, reassessing what exactly is phase 2. So the process is to evaluate existing CIP funds, assign available funds to a revised work plan, and the project goals in partnership with the Friends of Veterans Memorial Park, first and foremost, is to construct the Mississippi Overlook. And along with that, is there economy of scale to think more futuristically, and are there ways with this next construction phase that we can set the table for future improvements? So keeping that in mind as the overall strategy. As well as we got a big park site here, open up as much as possible for park use. So these are the existing conditions right now. You got the public works facility over here. It's anticipated to be phased out eventually. Some forecasts have put it at 20 years. Maybe sooner, maybe later, don't know. But the overall concept is that the Marquette facility gets phased out, the park will expand into that space. The existing tree alley is there, Marquette boat ramp, and the Riverfront Trail runs right to it, and which is also a national trail system. So something to think about in the future, ways of capitalizing on tourists that do actually come through following the American Discovery Trail, Mississippi River Trail, and it's now part of the official alignment of what's called the National Rail Trail, So 3 national significant trails go right through the front door here, so it's kind of exciting. So this is an overlay of how the Smith Group plan fits into the site. So those other areas mentioned before, the entry drive, the drop-off, the expanded courtyard, and the river overlook, and how that comes through. However, right now, budgetary concerns, removing the parking lot isn't in the cards right now, as well as building the parking lot and separate entrance. So I went backwards accidentally. So the plan that has been bid and currently underway is a scaled back version where this phase constructs the river overlook, connecting paths, but also taking into consideration how that fits into the overall expanded monument. So this phase will take on and actually construct some of in addition to the river overlook per the Smith Group plan, but also some of these connecting brick paver walks that will eventually connect the upgraded center. The tree bosque with the rank and file will go in this area. And installing at this time, getting the site, I'll go into that. So exactly what we're doing, hang on. My slide's out of order. But knocking out the site grading for this future phase at this point. So that'll take out a lot of the costs associated with the next phase. So getting the most bang for our buck right now, having some interior circulation paths leading up to an overlook point where we'll have some benches that'll be a nice vantage point overlooking the existing plaza. And with the visual sight lines, you'll have the Centennial Bridge directly behind that. So some dramatic view lines, but a way to kind of get immersed in the site is what's anticipated at this point. As far as the project timeline, we had a bid letting September 24th. As far as ongoing initiatives with the park, Bush Construction has agreed to take on construction administration as an in-kind service. So that helps us out from a city perspective, and that Bush will be coordinating what we had 5 subcontractor packages awarded for this. So they'll be managing the floor show of these other phases, which were separated, and due to our bidding law, that's how it worked out, where we bid out the project with, I don't have 5 in there, we had 5. My apologies. But the packages were broken out by trade, so site work, metal work, concrete, and landscaping. So between those 4 packages, the low bids came in with Langman Construction on site work, Hawkeye Paving and metal work, AmeriCorps on concrete, and Hawkeye Paving on landscaping. So for a total bid package of $457,911 and 75 cents.
So can I just ask, were there actually 5 bid packages?
I seem to recall 5, so that's what's in my head. So I may be wrong on that.
But the 4 that are listed, that's the complete combination of things that are awarded? Those 4?
Yeah, I need
Okay.
to verify. They've all been awarded.
Okay.
4 or 5. That's entirely my bad on that one. But so construction commencing as soon as the weather breaks. We originally hoped to break ground last fall, but we got a little behind schedule with some staffing issues at Bush Construction, which got us on a later cycle, which kind of led to another thing. So I'm already receiving material submittals for the project, so the game plan is to go as soon as possible. And it's just a rendering of the future monument, which will be the centerpiece of the park. So thanks for your time.
Zach, before you stop, can you go back? I mean, I see it scaled down, but I don't quite understand what the overlook will be, since it's not that jettison concrete piece that I saw in the original. So by the bike path will that overlook little piece be?
You want to go back to the rendering?
Well, it was really actually the slide I thought before you gave us all the costs. Your scaled down version that you bid. Right there.
So, okay, this is Smith Group plan here.
Yeah,
Actually, the entirety of the overlook is per the Smith Group plan.
So
Does that answer your question?
is that what the landscaping for 300,000 is for, is for that piece right there?
Well, when it says landscaping,
Well,
it's also,
I get that.
no, but it's also topsoil and those kind of
Right,
things. So,
right.
yes.
So what will that look like then? Do you have a rendering of what that is?
It's the,
That's what I wanted to say, thank you.
there you go. So it's an expanded Riverwalk treatment that can be expanded upon in the future to tie in to the Marquette Landing.
But this is part of what will happen in 2022, is this combination
Right
here.
here.
And
The
so
question is, where does the bike path go?
it's right there. You go
This,
on the brown.
it is the bike path.
They're walking on the bike path.
We're gonna
There's
knock
no
them off.
setback for.
We're just gonna knock them off.
Recreational trail.
I'm saying.
And these will be
could've
cut
set
stone,
that back.
a terrace of cut stone with some natural stone steps leading up to an overlook with some seating right here, and then integrated landscape plan.
And so the existing rail that runs right now will still be there, I
yeah.
assume?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bulkhead will not change. It's going to be built right up to it. Right now, I think there's a buffer of some kind, like a few feet of grass, but it's expanded in size, so there's a standard like 10 feet right now. This Riverwalk will go all the way to the seawall, so there'll be added space if there's some concerns about,
Yeah, there's a
conflict
lot of
points.
folks that sort of fish along that whole area.
Right, right. So it'll be conducive to that activity as well.
Okay. I'm always amazed. Thank you, Zach. Any other questions
Yeah,
for
I
Zach?
have a question. Zach,
Sure.
that area that had you talked about the brick paver walk,
Correct.
wouldn't that be I emailed you about a possible memorial walk.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be a good place for that?
It can be. I mean, right
Where,
now, it's
where,
already,
where the public, we're gonna, as a fundraiser for the Friends of Veteran Memorial Park, and it'd be a dual purpose. It would give people an opportunity, as we know, it's been done many times in Davenport, at Vanderveer, at the River's Edge, where people would have an opportunity to buy a brick, have it engraved, custom engraved with the veteran that they want to memorialize in the park. And it would be an opportunity for that to happen and create a dual purpose of a fundraiser, but also a place for people to memorialize their veterans. So I think that might be a good place for that.
okay. And just speaking on reflection, I don't, your board has obviously changed. At one time, there were concerns about a brick paver treatment being, I don't know, the words I'm looking for, they were concerned about the respect of stepping on somebody's name. That was at one time a concern. And I think in terms of monument treatment, there was more of a favor. Again, the board's changed of having them on a wall type setting instead.
Yeah, it's possible. We went to, a couple of us went to the Dixon Veterans Memorial Park. I don't know if anybody's ever been there in Dixon, Illinois. And they have several walks, and it's really well done. And so we're having our next meeting February 3rd, whatever the first Monday in February is, but we'll talk about it at that time, and Chad Dyson will be there. And we'll discuss whether we think a wall is more favorable, but we definitely are thinking with the construction going to happen this summer that we want to provide an opportunity for the public to get involved in either a wall or a walk. And we could have a walk where it wouldn't necessarily be walked on, it could be just off to the
Yeah, you
side.
can put it off to the side.
Or like a garden, perhaps, with a centerpiece. But we want to give the public an opportunity to do that.
So, looking at the Smith Group plan, I mean, this portion is what's being built as part of this phase, but
Yes.
there's also the tie-in to the entry
That's going to be this summer?
No.
I didn't think so.
But in the future, I mean, that could be a good spot as well.
Yeah, yeah. It wouldn't have to be just one. I mean, it could be more than one place for that matter, but, okay.
Or a commemorative niche to be determined, you know.
Yes,
There's also
correct,
that.
correct.
Any other questions for Zach? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Steve, next we have the 2023 operating budget.
I placed that in there just because it's been, 2 months since we last visited. There aren't any changes, and I don't anticipate our acting on this until the next meeting. Obviously, the whole Mid-American Energy thing will be, there'll be some additional deposit of revenue that places some money inside of this, but that is not reflected, obviously, at this stage. But just know that. I'd rather spend the next maybe 10 minutes or so going through a proposal that I alluded to at the last meeting, and that I have spent some time talking with various electeds and city administration and some others on. I want to first thank Alderman Grip, who, as council liaison to our commission, has been, even before we were talking about this particular proposal, has been very tireless in his efforts to try to increase our funding source. Here, the operations part, that's not just talking about the capital piece that we also work very hard on and is ongoing discussions every year, but the operation piece that, we talk about, that $75,000 that comes in each year to the commission and has remained flat from the beginning for 4 years. And by the way, 52.5 goes right back out. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about a proposal from a programmatic standpoint and operations that we termed last year as Riverfront Refresh, but it really is kind of Riverfront Refresh 2.0 because, and not as a redo, as an always envisioned building block that continues on, because we knew that once we started that people would be inclined to want more. And that's exactly what happened. Last year was pretty successful. We learned a lot of things, and we're already, I've got a schedule, of events that continues to grow that, for 2022 and all throughout the Riverfront, reaching out to various partners, some creative ideas, some exciting things, and all of that, even when we try to do things economically, it still takes some resources. So, some of those ideas, we have the traditional summer concert series at the band shell. So we're in LeClaire Park. We're talking about, one of the things we learned last year for Quinlan Court. We learned a lot of things, but one of the things related to the fact that we needed to standardize a day. We needed to pick a day of the week and just program to it so that people knew Thursdays, for example. That's where, we're going to have something, and then we'll obviously publicize what events are taking place, but that's exactly what we're going to do. And you're going to hear more about this as we solidify it, but we intend to have, May through September, Thursdays in Quinlan Court. We'll have events there, and there'll be, it's not going to always be just music, but obviously music is a lot of what moves people, but there'll be some other things. For example, there'll be on Tuesdays in August through September, on Tuesday nights, we're working with Parks to have a cornhole, bags tournament. It will be located in Quinlan Court. So it's a great space for that. And they were looking for a venue that could, work for something along those lines, it works all the way, it works all the way around. And so we're very excited about that. More to come on that. You know, we're talking about, you know, with the farmer's market, we tried this in a smaller scale last year, but we're gonna give it more firepower this year. Moonlight markets, so a couple, you know, maybe 4 or 5 evening markets throughout the summer. And we'll continue our Movies on the Mississippi. We'll continue our partnerships with Quad City Empowerment Open Air Markets on Sunday afternoons. At various times, we've got cleanups to do and railings to paint and things like that, the car show to do. We've got 35 stops at River Heritage Park between American Cruise Lines and Viking. We've got, you know, I think the first stop right now is slated to be by American on July 4th. On July 19th is the first inaugural stop in our community for Viking. At this stage, it could be earlier. There's one date in October on a Tuesday when the two will be here together. We're already coordinating how that's going to work. And I already have preliminary schedules from both of these cruise lines for 2023, and we're up into the lower to mid 40s for the total between the two. So we continue to grow, and all of that really is a factor of how successful, I mean, you know, how we come out of the pandemic and how well their business model grows. Anyway, that is, all those things are happening at a pretty fast clip. Red, White, and Boom. We're even talking about something kind of fun related to Chris Kindlemart. You know, we had a very successful Chris Kindlemart in early December. It seems like so long ago that I was able to talk to you all. So I'm trying to quickly debrief a little bit, but we had a very successful Chris Kindlemart and Extravaganza just a few weeks ago. Despite the Friday evening weather, and it was fairly cold, we had a fairly steady crowd throughout the weekend. We haven't always had 3 days, or 2.5 if you want to call it that. That has grown from a single day, so it might have felt like an inundation on one day, and then now you've got 3 days, so it was nice to have a steady crowd throughout, because it's hard to serve if you're a vendor or one of the restaurants down there to have long lines and not be able to, you know, serve everybody. So one of the things with Chris Kindlemart we're talking about doing, though, is that's a 3-day affair, you know, and it's very tough to do the big fundraiser that relies heavily on funding. The event relies heavily on that Friday evening event. So we're going to pull that event out and do a Christmas in July event. And so that's a theme that we think will be well received and that we can have a lot of fun with. And it would still raise funds for Chris Kindlemart, but it would be under a tent at the Freight House and in the spirit of Christmas, Chris Kindlemart, but maybe perhaps in a you know, some sort of beachwear or something. You know, we still are working on all the kinds of things we can do with that, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. Now, related to, you know, that's the backdrop. Those are a lot of the activities that we're envisioning. I wanted to give you a bit of a sample because we've spent a lot of time envisioning, planning, thinking, and, you know, putting that to paper, putting it to a schedule, trying to make it all work out, and at the same time then going, okay, you know, how are we gonna make this work? Both, you know, now from a financial model, staffing, that sort of thing. And so that is what I included. This is a draft that is being shared, being talked about, is not decided on yet, but we're working that, and is generally being received very, very positively. But again, we're still sort of waiting to hear some finality or conclusion to it. But let me just quickly, for your benefit, go through some of that. So there's kind of 3 areas: enhanced communication, programming / staffing, and then like what I call operations. Okay, if you're gonna do more events, you're gonna have more trash, for example, or, you know, you certainly want it to look better. We've spent countless hours around in meetings like this talking about the importance of finishing touches, that kind of stuff. We need to do more than just mowing. You know, we need to make sure it's starting to really pop. So back to communications, on the enhanced communication standpoint, we've talked a little bit about Hello Lamppost. That's that UR texting kind of technology that we're going to launch in April, and that along with an additional sort of website promotion that will work in concert with our presence on the city website, of course, but shared content, that sort of thing. But we tend to get lost in just the city website, right? Now, you know, you can understand how that happens. There's a lot of content that across all departments. Well, you know, we need Davenport, riverfront.com. Well, I just so happen to own that, by the way, which I'm happy to give freely to you. I bought it so that with the thinking that we could make use of it, and even if it just goes automatically, right, to wherever, the point is this. It's got to be intuitive. That's what I heard countless times this summer from people, and it makes so much sense. You know, what's going on, Steve? You know, we got to share it. It's a lot of work to put these events on to have a few people show up. That's silly. And so we've got to be about the promotion of it too. And so we need it to be intuitive. Go to a very important, easy, reachable, accessible place, multiple places, and that's it. Hello Lamppost is not to replace any particular tool. It's to supplement multiple tools, as is all of these. They're all designed for that constant reiteration of it. The point of standardizing a date or multiple dates, Thursdays, for example, in Quinlan Court, that's also meant to convey the messaging, right? So there's some costs with that. From a programming staffing standpoint, obviously, we've got some dollars here, and there's some grant writing that will. I ticked off a lot of events here, and so that $13,000 isn't going to pay for all of that. So there's partnerships and there's some other kinds of monies here that we're envisioning, but that's some dollars that are, when we're talking about trying to, do a $500 event, kind of thing, a band, a local event, that's what that is. And then, this is where I think it's important to think creatively because you could go a lot of directions with how you want things to roll, okay? We could spend a lot of money figuring out how you're going to put some things together. But the point is this, I don't want to get lost in the weeds necessarily because it's not final and all of that. But I spent countless hours, or have spent countless hours, trying to put together the way to take and use dollars the most wisely and put them actually to events and make it so that we're active with events and programming and animating the Riverfront, which again, I might remind you, is a change. I mean, is a different thing for us, but I think, for reasons I won't get into again tonight, but I think are sound, critical, and not happening if we're not doing it, okay? So I think it's necessary, and I think it also helps build not only community support, but or spirit, but support for the big stuff, if you will, for the vertical infrastructure, for that kind of stuff that is important for us when we want that to happen, as we do. But what the idea behind the staffing piece is that, frankly, we've gotten away with a lot of free help along last year, free assistance anyway, because we tap in. I utilize these guys quite a bit, and that's just because the infrastructure's there. I mean, I don't have some of the infrastructure. I don't have some of these things. We don't have. We may have access, but for different reasons, it may or may not be easily accessible. And so, it makes sense on multiple levels, from an infrastructure standpoint, from a vendor exposure standpoint. I mean, you want vendors to be successful. There's a market. Well, what about some other opportunities, right? We're providing them, so it makes sense, and they see that, and the staff sees that, and therefore their buy-in is there, and they help create these events, and we happen to luck into the fact that there's this energy and interest in the larger picture too. And so, you've met at least, some of these staff members, or there's two, and you understand that from the get-go that there's this energy about her. And so the idea here is just essentially to expand, not to really, to steal or replace or whatever, but to keep doing what we're doing, but we're talking about expanding, to other parts of the riverfront at different times of day, to connect with different events, the programming. And so that's what we're doing. And we're talking about essentially not adding staff. That's not what we really do a lot here at the city. We contract for services. And so we would be working and with, some of the funding, being able to compensate for some of those services during the time that we're spending on that.
If I can just interrupt, because I don't want us to run out of time.
Yep.
And so I think that on the enhanced programming and staffing, what you're really talking about is saying, look, we have this great partnership
Yep.
that we currently enjoy with our farmers market.
Yep.
And there are opportunities to expand that, to expand the programming of it, to help utilize those people who already have sort of the expertise in that, and to say we want to contract for some services because we can't rely upon Steve Aarons to do every single thing for every part of programming across the entire riverfront that we want to do. It's not physically possible. As much as you contribute tremendous amounts of time, we need to be able to expand some of that staffing in a way, in not hiring employees, but doing some contracted services with some of the people already down there that you're already in great partnership with. And that's what, when we talk about that 85,000 for enhanced programming and staffing, that's part of the contemplation of that.
Exactly
Is that an accurate?
That's very
Okay.
well said.
Yeah, I want to make sure that people understand, that this is really us trying to figure out how do we leverage what we already have
That's exactly
in a
right.
way that's really economical.
That's right.
So these are two contracted services, right? I'm sorry.
Yes.
And then that allows you, I'm very much in favor of this because really you should be doing higher level services than this. I mean, you're programming on a level that really your job should be more of a little bit, well, obviously its responsibilities are a higher level than programming. It's strategic to figure it out, but not to do it. So I'm way into that. Is this executive officer for somebody there, or what is that piece?
Nope, that's me.
And have you talked with HR about that, or?
That's not HR specifically, others though.
Okay. Because I know they have a fairly structured,
Yeah.
so it could be a bonus or something.
That's
A bonus level,
considered
okay.
in this,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Yep.
All right, so I get that, and then I guess I'm
Yeah, and then the other part, because I know Dee especially will be interested in this part, but on the operations. Back to that 75,000 in and 52.5 right out. I'll get right to the point of this. The ask really has been centered around, we'd like an increase of 50,000 to that 75,000 with the 52.5 not going out. So what that is for us is 102.5 remaining, which almost nearly fully funds this particular program. Now, I don't know if we'll get all of it in that way, but the point is we don't wish to leave or abandon, as we've talked about, parks in a lurch. I don't want to necessarily get into what is done for that amount or whatever, but the point that I'm trying to drive home is, we still need some of that, I'll call it some of that basic level stuff to be done. And what I really envision is then on top of that we can start moving forward and build on there. Like, it sounds so weird, but, we should expand you know, the hanging baskets. You know, we should not be seeing weeds around the band shell.
And I think this is where we've talked about, there's a great opportunity to think about what DDP has done with the city and contracting services there, and maybe this is an opportunity. Look, let's build on that existing partnership. I mean, it's working really well. I think they've had a chance to work through a lot of the kinks, which is kind of nice, so we can come in after a lot of the kinks have been worked out, and add to that, and I think that's just synergy in terms of all of the interested stakeholders.
Thinking in
being part
terms
an
of finishing
organized
touches,
process.
that's right.
Yeah.
Ongoing finishing
Yeah,
touches.
I think it's also reasonable, though, obviously, if we're increasing activities and opportunities along the riverfront, and every weekend there's something going on and blah, blah, blah,
Yep.
you're bound to have an increase in cost,
Yes.
and therefore the budget, you
Yes.
know, you need to go up. So, I mean, I
Yes.
think that's very reasonable.
Yes, if you want people to show up,
Yeah,
they're gonna show up and you're gonna have to pick up behind them.
Sure.
I mean, you
I
can't.
mean,
keep-
increased activity is obviously increasing expenses. I
That's
mean,
right.
that's it's very common.
I think
Right.
having financial monies available to contract out. So we got dead trees in Quinlan Court. They need to come out. It's going to be ugly. They need to be replaced. We need to make sure that you and your staff or whoever you get to hire knows when they're going to be watered. They're going to be watered, and we're just not waiting. The same thing is if we end up getting this little flood wall around Union Station, there's a lot of landscaping. There's going to be 2 or 3 years of maintenance, and you need some monies in your hand to be able to make that happen on the short term and then on the long term. And I think that, to me, is part of the strategy when you talk to the city staff, because we don't put money, unfortunately, in a capital budget for those next 2 years when it's called landscaping to take care of everything. And the Parks Department is not big enough to do this kind of thing. They mow grass really well, and they've got those things down, and they got some flowers in the middle of Dillon Fountain, but they really don't have the staff to take care of what we need. So
And that's what this attempts to do.
Yeah, I think
Partner our way through it.
this is a great proposal. Is there anything you need us to do tonight with regard to this, or?
I don't think tonight, but stay tuned. Like I'll reach out, I'll keep you apprised. I didn't want to get too far ahead, but yet, you know, there's a lot of conversations that are occurring, and I think very soon we'll hear, you know, some update on that.
Okay. Is there anything else you need to add for your executive officer's report?
Just that, a couple things. Just a reminder that I had sent out, I forget even when this was, but I was asked to participate when the mayor had this meeting, this virtual meeting with the railroad, and I sent you all the memo that we produced from that. He's working very diligently and very focused, the council along with him, on that merger. And it's, again, I just want to reiterate, it is not to prevent the merger at all. It's just really important to advocate for the city's concerns about what tripling the rail traffic through here is going to do by way of that merger. And there are, we won't spend time today, but there are some significant factors in that, and some concerns to go along with it. And I know they are working very hard and are laser focused on this. I just wanted to reiterate that for your benefit, that isn't just a memo that sort of just went in. He asked us to do that. We did, and we're seen as a partner in this. Also, I can send you, I did make copies, but I think it might be better at this point to email you the copy. What I did was make a combined copy or a schedule of the 2 cruise lines. So all the stops in chronological order, you know, for the season. It will, I think you pointed out early last year, it was tough to find on the website. I've already sent it to the communications department. If they haven't already, it's going to end up very soon out on the, you know, on the city website. But I wanted you all to also have this schedule that's combined. I had to sort of retype it into one because it comes from 2 different
Steve, that
schedules.
schedule will change. How much trouble do you think you'll have with the amount of dockage space with them coming?
Docking space, none. No. Zach has
We
it all
planned for
handled.
that, yeah, that was,
No, I think there's actually, Yeah, I know. There's actually, from a docking space, if I understand your question correctly, we've been told there's room for a third cruise ship along that span, but we've got the two. So no, I don't envision we're talking right now, we're kind of finishing touches on both the site, as we had our presentation 2 months ago, and the exiting strategy. I should turn this way because I don't think you can hear. The exit, the disembarkment from the boats. And the only thing that we're really focused on the other thing we're focused on at this point is the logistics of their experience here. So I've had a few meetings already with Visit Quad Cities and some tour guides and expanding their offerings. We are not, Commission doesn't own that, but we're very much involved in that vis-a-vis me, because I think that's important for their experience to be rounded out, and Visit Quad Cities is.
The various boats expect to come and
Yep.
dock against the wall.
Yep,
And the dockage along that reach
yep.
is designated by the U.S. Coast Guard as emergency landing.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any coordination going on by us that we're making those spaces available so we don't end up in a conflict? Same with the Corps uses that space for
Yeah, they know.
rehab of the lock.
The Corps, they're aware that we've got these, I can forward the specific schedule, but they're very much aware at the Corps of we've just done their job and just paid to refurbish their wall. So, it's a shared partnership is the key there. Yes, I think I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but
Yeah, I can jump on.
Right.
I've had on-site meetings with representatives of Viking Cruise Lines within the last few months to iron out where exactly these gates are coming. So,
Yep.
and next week I have a meeting with American Cruise Lines, one of the representatives is coming in to see the site in person. They're looking at things like the condition of the kevels and those kind of
Yep.
things. And so, obviously, some of them aren't in the best of condition, so they want to ensure that they have adequate tie-down space. And it sounds, right now, Viking will be needing 2 gates to be constructed for access, and I think American's going to make do with 1. I'll learn that next week.
we didn't have any issues last year. I think there were
No.
24 stops or something like that with one cruise line, but no, as far as you meet, with,
What Zach just said is what I wanted to hear.
yep.
We'll be going to a Crawford company to work. They fabricated the design. They worked with the existing cut through, so they've been named sole source provider on the Riverfront safety rail. I've already been in discussion with Keith Gerks there in terms of fabricating a swing out panel in strategic locations that work. So roughly, I think 400 lineal feet per boat is kind of what we tentatively call these gates. And kind of what Steve was saying, I think there's probably about 1,200 feet of lineal feet on site there. So you could theoretically have 3, but we want to separate them a little bit. Viking will be downstream where the existing park is, and then American will be upstream.
Okay.
Quick question on another note. Steve, you mentioned the DavenportRiverfront.com. Is that going to launch in April as well?
That'd be my goal.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, next.
Chris?
Yep.
Thank you.
Next is Parks Liaison report with Chris.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it brief. We're still waiting on our formal presentation of the Parks and Rec master plan. It's been pushed back a couple months, but I think it's coming at our next meeting. We have the draft and it's 477 pages. It really includes an incredibly detailed look at every single park in Davenport, every tiny little park. What does it have and what should it have or what could it have? So that's a big deal for the department. We haven't done a whole lot with Riverfront related stuff, so I'll keep it brief, but the spring and summer activity guide is coming out soon, and one of the things they're really proud of and they did a really good job on is they've made a map of the entire city's, all the parks properties, and then they have this chart that shows little icons, and obviously you can't see it, but little icons for like a baseball diamond or boating, fishing, overlook points, everything like that. So you can look at this and see the tiniest park in Davenport, and it has this or that, and visit it. And that includes the riverfront parks. So they're really excited about that. And I think that's about it for parks.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Chris? Okay, I don't think we have any public with business.
I think Alderman Grip
Oh.
wanted.
Alderman Grip?
Good evening. I just had a couple of comments. So first, I just wanted to say basically what Kelly and Dee said about what the city has asked Steve to do, what the Riverfront Improvement Commission has asked Steve to do, and the more programming we do, the more resources we need to provide to programming and to supporting Steve and the Riverfront Improvement Commission. It's been a big success getting people to the riverfront. It's really great to see, especially when the weather's nice, but even these winter festivals that we have now, thousands of people come down, and they've really become a tradition. So I just wanted to tell you I'm in favor of Steve's proposal, and I'm trying to push to get that done. Biggest concern's already been mentioned. Very concerned about the CP merger and the impacts on quality of life in Davenport. Made it very clear to Mayor Mattson that this should be a top priority for the city. It's one of those things that we just simply have to be heard. We have to be in communication with CP, and hopefully we can get some concessions from them. We've been building that relationship with them over the last few years on a few different projects. I know it's always kind of been tenuous, but recently they've been willing to come to the table and work with us on a few things, which gives me a little bit of hope that they'll come to the table and work on this. Mayor Mattson is definitely on this. He agreed with the significance of it. And then the other thing, I reached out to Steve and City Administrator Spiegel and the mayor. If you saw that the core Rock Island District has a $1.2 billion budget for the current fiscal year. And I was thinking of projects that potentially maybe could come out of that. One of the projects that came right to mind was the dredging of the Lindsay Park Yacht Club, and reading the article, that is an acceptable use of that money, and we know that the Corps has already said that that is their responsibility. They've just never funded it. This might be an opportunity to get those funds, so I asked Mayor Mattson to reach out to the colonel at the Corps and engage in those conversations and see if potentially there's projects that'll be done right here in the Quad Cities. And then lastly, I know Steve didn't get into the CIP today, and maybe he does that next time, I don't know, but I did want to tell you that it had been made clear to me that electrification of the Florian Keene lot was a top priority, and initially that was out in like FY 24, 25. Last year, we were able to get that pushed up, so that will take place this fiscal year 23, and that means we'll have a lot less of the generators at the farmer's market, and people will have a little bit more quiet. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Alderman Grip. Those are awesome updates. Yeah. And just also, we just really appreciate your advocacy as a liaison. I mean, I certainly think that I speak for the commission that there's a marked difference in our ability to work with the council and have a really healthy relationship, in large part because of your efforts. So very much appreciated. Okay, anything else for the good of the order? All right, we have a motion to adjourn. Second? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.